Morality.
Tonight, we get ready to talk Andor episode 9 and 10, as well as catch up on Loki. Then we'll discuss the 1985 horror film, Re-Animator. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And welcome to The Writer Brothers, welcoming, of course, special guest, Mr. Kamran Pasha, to kick off our pop culture news segment tonight. Real quick, of course, we'll go around the room. How is everybody doing? Corion, you doing well? Awesome. And hello to Maria with T and Telly. Good to see you. Scogli, how you doing? I'm muted. All right. And of course, I forgot to do the sound check, so everyone forgot what Corion just said. But let's go ahead and turn it over to Kamran to introduce himself, of course. And what do you got for us today? What happened when the bat phone rang?
Well, first, thank you for having me on. Like I said, I've been very busy. Now that the strike is over, at least for the writers, I have a lot of writing and work to do, and so it's very hard for me to get away and do any YouTube at this time. But I thought it was important enough for me to take a few minutes, and sadly, I only have a few minutes because I have an appointment afterwards. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you for giving us anything.
Okay, well, excellent. So I'll just tell you. So I haven't heard from my contacts Barrow in a little bit, and they've been busy doing their thing. I've been busy doing my thing, and then I got this sort of surprising and troubling message from them today, which I got some hours ago. I didn't want to post it because, first of all, I didn't want it to be true, and I didn't want to post it, and I wanted more information before I tried. And then I grilled them for a little bit more, and a few hours later, they were able to get me back more. That I said, okay, let me at least share what's going on, and I did. And I understand because I'm not really following YouTube commentary anymore, frankly. So I understand some of this is already out there, or at least similar stories are out there. That's what I've heard, but this is what I've got. Okay, so and you can compare that to whatever else you may be hearing from other sources. So I'll just read it to you. So Sparrow contacted me with a very unusual message, which startled me. And I'll quote it to you. It said, "Heads up, there is a discussion about doing a remake of OG original Star Wars happening right now, but it's pressure from Disney and not what Lucasfilm wants to do." End quote. So I got this and I was really startled because that's the first time I have heard of any conversation like that. And I was like, you know what? That's really disturbing stuff. I certainly don't want to see anything like that. And so I was like, I don't know. I don't want to run this right now, but I said, let me at least ask to find out how serious this is and what is happening internally. So I asked Barrow, so what is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni thinking about this? And I didn't hear from them for a few hours. And I was like, well, maybe this isn't anything real. And then they came back to me with this. So I'll quote that to you again. It's a quote, Jon Favreau, Jon doesn't want to do it. He knows remaking it will piss fans off and undermine them back there. Dave wants to expand what was going on during A New Hope, make it broader, but Jon says Dave can do that without a remake. End quote. So that's a little bit of actual back and forth conversation. Yeah, that they are privy to that back and forth conversation that's happening. None of that. I mean, neither of those things. The first thing surprises me that this is even being raised, but perhaps it shouldn't. We'll talk in a moment maybe about why it shouldn't surprise us that at least someone at Disney is raising this. And then what doesn't surprise me is the reaction between the two gentlemen. I mean, Jon Favreau, I know doesn't want to do something like this, and that is actually why I believe this is never ever going to happen, because as far as I'm still aware, Mr. Favreau is really the shadow president, right? He's running things behind the scenes there now. Ms. Kennedy's been traveling in Europe. I think she just got back, so she hasn't been in the office, and for a lot of reasons as we've talked. But go on. But go for it.
Yeah, she went back to go to the Buffett birthday bash, is my understanding.
Okay.
Based on the information we've gotten from the lovely Stephanie Janisek of Stephanie Janisek Smuggler's Cantina, who seems to have her pulse on, like her fingers on the pulse of everything. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So yeah. So Jon, I know, doesn't want to do this. Apparently he's being very outspoken. He doesn't want to do this. And as far as I'm aware, he's still the final call within the Lucasfilm structure right now. Can he be overruled by Bob Iger? Yes, he can, right? But will he be? I don't think so. But the other dynamic that feels real to me from this message is Dave Filoni saying, well, maybe there's something we can do with this, right? Maybe we can just use this to expand the stuff he wants to do, and you get more of his Rebels characters time and all that stuff, and maybe find a way to get the Rebels into the OG Star Wars. I mean, I'm sure that's his agenda. Those are his children. He wants to get his children to go to Exeter Academy, right? He wants to get them as much attention and prestige as possible. But like I said, I've met Mr. Filoni. Last time I was on, I forgot to bring it to you that I actually had my little signed book that he signed for me during our job interview. But maybe if I have time now, I'll grab it. But and my vibe of him was he's a company man. He's never going to go against whoever the boss is. When Kathleen Kennedy is the boss, he would never go against her. He might work quietly to do his own thing and see other things that he wants to do that might undermine it, but he's not the guy to make direct confrontations. And if Jon Favreau, who I understand he has a better relationship with this guy, they're more creatively in sync, is saying, I don't want to do this. And John, and Dave, if you want to expand the Star Wars world during the rebellion, there's lots of ways to do that. We can create a show about what was happening with some of these other post-Rebel stuff. We don't need to reboot this. And I'm sure Dave's response was, "Yeah, boss, that sounds right."
Yeah,
that's what my tuition.
Yeah, I want to really quickly reboot the original trilogy. No.
Yeah. I mean,
nobody wants that.
No, I first, you're never going to get somebody as iconic as Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher, for that matter, in the roles. I don't personally think you're going to be able to get somebody to be as amazing in the role as Mark Hamill has been. But, those are the major sticking points, right? Like, you're not going to find actors who can fill those roles modern day, because it was lightning in a bottle getting all three of them on screen at the same time as it was, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same if you made it just a walking CGI fest. And
Mhm.
if you keep the story the exact same, then what have you really done artistically? And if you change too much of the story, you're going to lose the specialness of Star Wars. So
Mhm.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it. But from a Disney money-making perspective, it kind of does.
Sure.
Because
So let's
yeah,
talk about
please,
that, because there's a
please go
reason why
ahead.
there's a. So building on that, I wasn't. When I got over my initial revulsion to the idea, I said, okay, let's get emotion out, which is always when I'm advising people, and I'm victim to it as well. Get emotion out, analyze situations objectively and from strategic points of view. And the question I've always asked, cui bono, who benefits, right? So who would present something like this? There's a couple of people that would present something like this. One is, we know, our good old friend Kathleen Kennedy, and the imperial remnant that remains inside of the company, right? Her buddies who still think that they can bring the empire back, right? They will be like, hey, here's a way to undermine these silly new republic guys, Favreau and Filoni. Let's come up with this stupid idea, right? I'm sure cui bono, they benefit. They can certainly try to do that. But the intel that I got was that this is coming from Disney, not coming laterally or from the story group, which is below Favreau. You can just dismiss those guys, right? So if it's coming from Disney, well, then why would it be coming from Disney? And if abstractly it makes sense, Bob Iger is against the ropes here. I mean, he's being pummeled by Muhammad Ali. I mean, he's getting very close to being down for the count, not getting back up, right? The stock is kind of cratered. It's not really going much further down. It ain't going much further up, right? But it's at over 50% of where it was just 50% down for where it was a couple of years ago. It's horrific loss, right? For major investors like Nelson Peltz, that's $1 billion losses. I get upset when my E-Trade account loses $100. I mean, I get annoyed by that, right? And imagine watching $1 billion vanish over 2 years. I mean, that's insane, right? And so we know from other reporting that's been done in the last couple of weeks, including the mainstream media, that Nelson Peltz seems to have gotten, whatever detente he had earlier in the year, that he wasn't going to pursue that board seat. He must have been given certain assurances to back off. Well, it looks like those assurances didn't pay out, right? And so now he seems to be publicly agitating to take back in. And if he were to wrest control, or even just putting himself amongst these wolves as an independent actor, is enough to send Iger running, because then Peltz has access to the books. Peltz can see things that are confidential. Peltz can go, what do you mean? What's this FTX thing all about? And then Iger's in trouble beyond trouble, right? So I can imagine that Iger, in a desperate move to keep Peltz off of his back, says, look, we're going to make billions of dollars on fixing Star Wars by going back to the very beginning. And let's give the new generation, a new Luke and new Han and new and he's that guy. He doesn't have a creative bone in his body. Michael Eisner was more creative than this guy. All this guy does is reboots. He doesn't know how to do anything else. So it's believable.
Yeah. Well, there is a way where we can actually almost satisfy a reboot scenario and still get the fans, into the theater and excited for Star Wars again. And that is if we take the Knights of the Old Republic video game and we have it, made into a 3 episode trilogy type of, we have it in a 3 episode trilogy based off of that first game. You want to know why? Because that game captures the magic and feel of the original trilogy while taking what worked best in the sequels and applying it. Now, granted, this is a video game. However, the narrative is considered by a lot of Star Wars fans, myself included, to be some of the best that Star Wars has ever gotten. And to have it set so far apart from the prequels and the original trilogy and even the sequels, this is an era that they could really cultivate and bring to live action, as a lot of KOTOR fans like myself have wanted. And that, I think, would be an excellent... That's the way to go, in my opinion.
That's trying something new, my friend, and that's not where Iger is in his DNA. He doesn't know anything new.
It's not doing
look, this guy can't do it.
Yeah.
Others could convince him to do it, but it's not in his DNA. Even when they tried to salvage Rise of Skywalker by trying to put in stuff like, bringing in we understand that we initially had some version of those gods, right? That we're beginning to see now, in Ahsoka, right?
Yeah.
Of the father, the brother, the sister. We had some version of the brother, I think, was the original villain of Rise of Skywalker, and then Iger's like, who's this guy? Iger doesn't watch any of the Rebels or Clone Wars. He's not watching any of that. Right? He's like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
I don't know who this guy is. Why is he the villain, right? And so even that, which is coming out of the established mythology of Star Wars under Dave Filoni, Iger's like, I never heard of this guy. This is new stuff. I don't do anything new, right? And so let's go back to the Emperor. That's all I know, right? And that's who this guy is.
Well, I mean, they have similar characters in that era, so it's totally doable. Jonathan G94 writes in, remaking the original Star Wars trilogy is literal impossibility. This isn't like Marvel DC property like Spider-Man or Batman that can be rebooted every 5 to 10 years starting fashion. I completely agree. That's why the answer is really simple. Thrawn is back in the galaxy. Let's just do Heir to the Empire. Let's just get some young actors to play the big 3 or big 4, because we'll probably want to include Lando in that too. And let's just do Heir to the Empire. And then when we start to bump up against the sequel trilogy timeline, we can just go move on from it and not even care.
Correct. And that was the plan. As far as I can tell, that is the plan, has been the plan. That's what Favreau thought he was signing on for when he became the shadow president. I mean, I think that's, and then the fact that this is now, my understanding, again, I've not been off both of social media in the world currently, both of social media and off of YouTube. So I understand this has been buzzing for a few days now. And so that means that this is something that was seeded very, very recently. And to me, it strikes as an act of desperation, because only about a week ago did we hear about Peltz? So why is this coming up? This feels like Peltz had a call or meeting with Iger and said, I don't see any reason not to pull the trigger and fight for my board seat. He's like, I'll give you the original Star Wars thing, right? That's what I'll do. He just made it up on the spot probably, or somebody, one of his consiglieres whispered in his ear, right? And then they started seeing, well, people like that, and they started spreading it in the town, right?
No. So, Disney, if you're watching, which we know you are, no. You reboot the sequel trilogy, you will never see a single Disney product on the Writer Brothers ever again, and likely.
Well, you can reboot the sequel trilogy.
Or, excuse me,
it's not the original trilogy.
I always get mixed them up. My bad. But yeah. Don't even reboot the sequel. The sequel reboot is the Thrawn trilogy. That's it right there. We're already here.
This is so now I'm going to say words to assuage everyone, because obviously I put that on our Patreon like an hour ago, and people are panicking, and some people say, I told you so. I'm like, okay, fine. I don't believe this is ever going to happen.
No, this is going to happen like the Acolyte's going to happen. Actually, the Acolyte has slightly more chance of happening. Yeah,
the Acolyte is more likely of happening than this thing, because nobody wants this, and already uproar in the hullabaloo that's out there. In the same way there was a hullabaloo over the alleged apparent ending of Indiana Jones, where he was going to die and she was going to take his. That didn't happen, and our good friend Doomcock apparently was pivotal in changing that ending. This is going to be a bigger uproar. Nobody wants this thing, and more people want the Acolyte than want this thing, right? And so
and we know the Acolyte's not happening. So,
right, as far as I'm aware, there's no evidence to this date, right? But and it's
we have the evidence. The fact that it's not on the Star Wars timeline is not insignificant. Correct. And actually, that's speaking of the Old Republic era is on that timeline now, though.
Yeah. So and the fact that I heard about it today, when apparently there's been a buzz for a few days, again, I didn't know, but apparently there's been buzz for a few days. It's because Sparrow heard or was somehow participating in this conversation between Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, or at least the argument that's around the office about this, right? That's how they could hear the exchange, or is aware of the exchange, right? Okay. And so that means the exchange really happened relatively recently, maybe today, maybe yesterday. It happened probably relatively recently. And so that means that whoever started this rumor, and this is my instinct of the timeline, I think Peltz made threats. I think Iger made up some stuff on the spot that I'll give you the new old trilogy. We'll start all over from the beginning. That's going to bring us billions of dollars, right? And then he had some of his underlings both tell Lucasfilm, you think about that and spread it out and see what the reaction would be. And then when it trickled out to Favreau, he's like, wait, who's what? Who's saying this? Where's this coming from? Oh, wait, were you claiming Iger said this? I don't want to do this, right? And so I'm sure that's how this conversation came in. I don't get the impression Favreau was consulted on this. I think he's probably like, where's this coming from? That's the vibe I'm getting from I may be wrong, but that's how I'm interpreting the things, but he's definitely, he seems to be quelling any conversation internally. And as far as I'm aware, he is the boss. So when the boss is saying, we're not going to do it this way, and Dave, shut up about it, we'll give you your bringing the Rebels guys into that period some other way. We ain't going to do it this way. I think that's going to silence this. unless Iger calls and says. And then if just seeing what Favreau has done for the last several years, I think this is his red line because he's a fan too. And if Iger were to say, you're going to do this or you're gone, he'll just say, oh, I'm gone. Thanks. You can give it back to Kathleen, see how that works out for you, and good luck to you. And Iger will fold. Iger's never gonna, give up Favreau. That's his last key here in this kingdom.
Hell, I'd even argue, and this would be an actually interesting situation, that Iger does this and then, or says, yeah, this is what I want to do. And Favreau says no. And then Iger says, okay, then what can you give me that'll make money?
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
Because he just threw out a dumb idea. Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, I've got the following stuff, right? And then they go through what's viable and what isn't. That could totally be how this goes down too, right? Like, the truth of the matter is, everybody on the planet knows this is an incredibly dumb idea, that you cannot capture lightning in a bottle twice, right? That you're never going to be able to pull this kind of, like, it's going to make $2 in the theater kind of thing. And, but if it gives somebody an idea, like, look, if it gives Filoni an idea to, write a story that's happening at the same time as the events of A New Hope, sure, go with it. Like, let's have some fun with that. Let's see where he's going. I want to know where, the Rebels crew was while the open warfare of the rebellion was going on. Sounds like fun. I'd like to know what Mon Mothma was doing when we didn't see her on screen. Sounds great. Like, all of this is totally viable to me.
Well,
right?
we've gotten some of that with Andor, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we can have those side stories and it'll be fine, right? We can have, like, we see Hoth going on, but I mean, we don't see Mon Mothma during Hoth at all. Where the hell was she, right? That could be an interesting discussion, right? There's a lot of places they could go without having to redo those movies. You leave them as it is and you fill in the gaps. That would be fine. I have no problem with that. Hell, I don't even have a problem with them going to, an earlier timeline and seeing where things go from there, right? There's a lot of places you can take this. You don't have to go back to the exact same well.
Yeah, and the thing is this is Jon Favreau is not J.J. Abrams. When Iger came back to Abrams and said, who's this brother guy? What is this? Abrams should have said, this is what we're going to do. It's part of the myth, boss. You should actually watch some of these animated stuff. This is an animation company, right? You should actually watch some of this stuff. You might know it's part of the mythology, right? We're just giving the fans will know about it. It's cool, right? Instead of doing that, because he ain't that guy, right? To stand up to power, right? He ain't that guy. Favreau is that guy. Otherwise he wouldn't have survived this long, and he wouldn't have won the war with Captain Kennedy, because he knows, he's very much an Aikido sort of guy. Like, he takes the energy of his opponent and flips it, right? That's what he does. And so, but he's not, and so what he'll do is he'll do exactly, I think, what Corian is saying here. He'll take the desperate energy that's coming from Iger and flip it into something that can be useful, right? Because that's who this guy is. That's who he is. I mean, I don't think Filoni is that guy, but no. Favreau is that guy. He is absolutely that guy. And as long as Favreau is there, and guess what? People, I heard 6 months ago he's been fired. As far as I'm aware, he's still there, right? And so, as long as that dude is still there, he's going to Aikido this situation. So all the people that are freaking out and being concerned, this is it's like all the times we freaked out when it's like, oh my God, the Acolyte is coming tomorrow and this is happening and that is, and Favreau has been fired. I mean, this is the kind of emotional roller coaster that is unhealthy. And we've been through this so many times. As someone on my Patreon pointed out, even if this were announced, it's never going to get on the air. No. How many of these things have been announced that we've never seen? The vast majority of them.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for a rebooted Star Wars trilogy, original trilogy, will be like 2% before a single frame is shot. That's what you want to kill Star Wars. That's it, right there. We figured it out. You want to kill Star Wars? Reboot the original trilogy. That's how you do it. That's the final blow. Because if they do that, I just don't see the point. I'm not gonna go watch the same movie. If you
No,
put the original trilogy on the big screen, I'll watch that. But don't reboot it.
Everyone's out. I'll be out. Everyone will be out. You know, the few sequel lovers will be out. Everybody will be out. Nobody wants this.
Yep.
Right?
He jumps the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally jumping the shark. It's jumping the shark moon. It's like that's no shark. That's not a small shark. That's a moon. Whatever. It's battle station. Whatever that line was. Whatever. So, but that's the idea. So, gentlemen, I need to start heading down here. Is there any sort of last question, anything from the chat?
Well,
because I need about 5 minutes. I got to get out of here.
I just want to add in here, like, there's an easy way we can tell that John has not been fired, because James Gunn has not announced he picked up Jon Favreau, because the second John leaves Lucasfilm, Gunn is going to be at his door, pounding down on it, backing up the dump truck full of money, right?
Sure.
It's that simple.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's
so,
right. Because, while Gunn is viewing Warner Brothers as his personal playpen, he can't play with all the toys. He actually needs somebody else who's competent, who's like a creative guy like him to play with some of these toys, right? Or he's going to get fired and not be able to play with the toys he wants to play with, right? So that's up there. So my colleagues, thank you all. Everyone around. There's a lot of conversation. Yes, Pete.
We did get a question from Daniel Larson.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Did Disney burn bridges mean you cannot get on the new Gargoyles show? I guess he wants to know if you can, if there's.
Oh well, yeah, the new Gargoyle show. Well, on my Patreon, I've announced that my friend Gary Doberman, he's my friend, right, is making the new Gargoyle show. I mean, I had dinner with him just a couple of weeks ago. I put it on my Patreon, right? So Gary Doberman is a very successful. He's the one who wrote the It movies. He wrote the Annabelle movies. He directed the last Annabelle movie, which was a huge success. And he's doing Salem's Lot. And he just did all the Nun movies. So he's the number one feature screenwriter of genre in the world right now. And he's a friend of mine, right? He's a good friend. He's a really good guy, very, very clean-hearted guy. So Gary, a few days ago, was announced is rebooting a live-action version of Gargoyles. I have not asked Gary for a job on the show. If Gary Doberman would offer me a job on the show, I was available, I would certainly say yes. But you don't go to a friend of yours and say, hey buddy, I was like, why don't you go make your show be successful, and then if it we're friends, you know my name, if it pops up in your mind, it'll come in, right? And that's just how you do that. You don't weasel your way in like that. That's kind of cheesy.
Well, if you do happen to talk to him again, on behalf of Gargoyles friends everywhere, please let him know, please let this be good.
Hold on.
Good.
And for the love of God, cast Keith David.
Okay. Well, I will tell you this. Maybe I'll end off on this. So Gary is, aside from being a brilliant screenwriter, he's good at this, right? He's consistent. Everything he has done for the last 5 years has made a hell of a lot of money. Whether you like some of those movies or not, the general populace did like those movies, right? Even if the Annabelle movies, they made money. The Nun movies made money, right? And so he knows how to get the majority of the audience, right? He's really good at it. And he's a fan. He didn't just randomly go after Gargoyles. He had to seek that out, right? I mean, that's a dead project. And he had to go and find that thing and use his power and leverage to make that happen. So I will say this. I'm going to be cautious. I will only say this. I want to be careful because I don't want to give away personal confidences. But let's just say some people who would like to see the original creator of Gargoyles involved in this, I am aware that there are conversations with the studio to get that person back. And I don't want to say anything more than that. Okay.
Steps in the right direction. I will.
That's all.
I did just want to
Gary
say,
would be very happy if that person came back. So that's how committed he is to making this right.
That's a good sign.
There is one situation that I would say it is acceptable to beg a friend for a writing job. And that is if they score a project that you absolutely love. So Cameron, I'm just warning you. If you end up on Star Wars or Star Trek, I'm going to be spamming your inbox till you give me a job. Please? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you again.
Let's get one day at a time. Hopefully I'll be able to announce and talk about my projects. I have a feature project that Corian is a little familiar with. It's an occult project, a new feature I wrote.
And it sounds fantastic.
I'm very proud of it. It's one of my best scripts. And my agents are like, I gave it to them right after the strike. They're like, oh my God, this is actually good. This is like really good. because I always give them these Islamic epics that are very hard for them. They're all well written. They're like, what am I going to do with this Islamic warrior epic from the 13th century? There's no market for them. I'm like, yes, there is. And now I'm like, here's a nice horror movie that's really commercial. They're like, oh my God, you've given us a commercial movie that doesn't have, and yes, it is actually has Muslim characters, but that doesn't actually screw it up. It makes them very happy. So I'm hoping to be able to talk about that. God willing, we sell it. I would love to come onto this channel, talk about that.
We'd love to have you to talk about that. That's yeah. Scogly's got the right idea right there. Yeah, rubbing the eyes.
Yeah, getting deal with the cut onions in the room.
We know somebody who's somebody.
I know somebody, whatever. And so, all right. So gentlemen, continue. Everyone, please stick around here. Let other people on social media know this conversation's happening. This is an important conversation. I'm going to take off, but you guys continue on. I've shared what I know, just a couple of things, right? It's worthy of a lot of conversation. Now you're going to talk about other topics as well. So, all right, everyone, God bless everyone. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Much love, brother. You take care.
Absolutely, guys, and thank you for your enthusiasm while Cameron was here, and it's always great to see you guys come out in support of Cameron, and of course, we'll definitely be continuing the Star Wars discussion shortly with Andor, but you guys heard it there first. Cameron's going to come onto this channel to talk about his projects, and of course, the other channels that are a part of the Pasha network. Stephanie Zanzik, are you just saying goodnight to Cameron? I don't know. You know what? I'll just wait to follow. Either way, the conversation is still going, but I think that concludes our pop culture news segment. So it is time to get into whether or not Andor is Star Wars. And, what better way to start that discussion than right after talking about, Star Wars. So Andor is a good example of what we're talking about with doing stories that take place during or around the original trilogy. I certainly don't have a problem with that. I kind of thought it was a little overdone with Rogue One and some of the stuff they did, but now I'm seeing Andor, and yeah, good night, Stephanie. Thank you for stopping by. Always good to have your input. And yes, guys, if you aren't subscribed to Stephanie, please do so. She does she's got a lot of different sources as well that we talk about and follow. She also brings conversation on Fridays too.
And honestly, she's if she's a criminally undersubscribed channel, she's really worth checking out. So,
and you don't have to agree with everything she says to follow her information. Just like you don't have to agree with everything we say. We put the warning down on the bottom there because this is a channel of free ideas.
Well, I'm going to go with, you don't have to agree with everything we say.
Yeah.
I mean, you should, but you don't have to.
So, those of you that are on the Twitter and know of Star Wars Theory, or you're on the YouTubes and you know of Star Wars Theory, you'll know that he put out a controversial tweet saying that Andor isn't Star Wars. And I, of course, even before having seen Episode 10, I didn't agree with that assessment. Then, after seeing Episode 10, I'm convinced this show absolutely is Star Wars. That last episode and the build up to it with this little mini arc pretty much ticks all the boxes. We have a hopeless cause against all odds, an overwhelming, an impossible force to overcome, because even though the Empire only has so many guards, they can zap the floor, kill them all. And so there's so much moving parts that have to come together to make the prison break happen. I was blown away. Like, this is really good Star Wars stuff. I'm really sad that we didn't get this before Kenobi, because if this came out before Kenobi, who knows how shit would have
people would have loved it.
Oh, I love it. I love this. I'm not even finished with this show. Andor is probably the best live action Star Wars. Ahsoka tried, but we've got a lot of good stuff. Daniel Larson says, "Oh yeah, you guys finished Narcana. So good, right?" Yes. You did not oversell that at all. I was watching the whole thing, getting chills during the escape, and watching them all and it was so realistic. Like, at first they come in with the gun, he goes, "Let's go, guys," and they're all standing there like, huh? What? I don't understand what's going on. And then he has to come in and explain, "No, we're free. We got a chance to escape." And they're like, "Oh, all right. Yeah, let's go."
They turned up the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was exciting. I was like on the edge of my seat.
So, like, okay. I've absolutely loved the prison break and the whole piece and all the pieces leading up to it. I thought that was fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, though, the other storyline that we're following at the same time. Like the Mon Mothma one is just stalled, right? Like I kind of sit there going like,
I don't
okay,
agree.
but let's get back to the prison, you know?
Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah, it definitely was a little out of place there. The Mon Mothma stuff I like because I'm one of those few people that actually liked House of Cards. In retrospect, I guess I could go back to watching House of Cards now since Spacey wasn't confirmed guilty, so whatever. But the point is, that's what I wanted to see. That's actually what I was hoping Rogue One was actually going to be, was like more, okay, establishing the First Order, build up of the New Republic, but that was back when I was giving them too much credit to know what they were doing. And thankfully, we see some competent storytelling with Andor. And that's why I'm okay with, let's not reboot the original trilogy, but if we want more shows like this that build up the original trilogy, that really just show the mantle of responsibility that the heroes that like Rebels and this show now make the original trilogy just so much
That
more
much
special.
better. Yeah.
Like now we see, like, because Luke just kind of comes in and walks into what's being set up in the process, but it's all connected. It's all part of the moving pieces and what's necessary to happen. It's almost like, you know, you see just kind of how the way the Force works in the Star Wars galaxy by making all of these events happen.
Yeah, and look, there are a lot of interesting moving pieces at play. They kept things exciting and interesting, and honestly, you know, how many genres do you have that you could take a story about space wizards fighting with laser swords and have a whole jailbreak arc in it, right? Like, you know, like a really well thought out like prison break movie in the middle of all of that and still have it feel like part of it and still make it work. And that's the brilliance of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Daniel Larson says, on program, that could be a meme for resisting through gritted teeth to any modern tyrants. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was so great when Andor threw that at him. He's on program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Loves Cat says, Mon
yeah.
Mothma line is about sacrifice. How much would you go out in the line for others outside of your circle? Tragic trap. These shows... Yeah. These shows show the lattice structure the OT move through. Exactly. Like, it does, yeah. This is what I thought I was getting out of Rogue One. Rogue One's just X-Wing porn and a bunch of nostalgia, which a lot of people liked, and that's fine. I'm glad a lot of people liked it, because I hated Andor in that movie. Didn't care for the character, and then what happens? Oh, he dies. And he's a jackass from the moment he's on screen to the very last frame when they're just hugging on the sand and dying together. Now I see, oh, this is why he's that way, and it kind of starts to make a lot more sense overall. And it's just, this is what good Star Wars writing is. And it's not the same as the original trilogy, but this just broadens the range of storytelling. It means that Star Wars can have more serious, adult-themed, not that kind, of Star Wars, and we can have the more politically charged, oh yeah, we're making political moves and you know, playing politics to get along and everything, and it's like, it's actually fun to watch because, you know, Mon Mothma's on Coruscant.
It's interesting and it makes sense.
Yeah, she could get whacked by an Imperial assassin anytime, and of course we know that's not going to happen for obvious reasons, but it's like, imagine you're watching Star Wars for the first time, this is what you first watch, like, this is another property that I think would get somebody more interested in Star Wars. It's got everything that we expect from Star Wars.
I was saying, this one is the most, this story has the most artistic credibility of anything Star Wars has ever produced, because it's not kind of built for the purpose of selling toys.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. This is not for your children. This is not your children's Star Wars at all.
No, but it is something that your children will grow up and appreciate, you know, when they get older, and then understand, like, because to me, it makes the Star Wars universe all that more relatable. On the one hand, yeah, we want escapism for fantasy to go to a different place, but at the same time, it also makes it feel more immersive when you can have characters and circumstances that seem a bit more grounded and relatable.
Like I want to get in there and understand how this works, because this is that big gaping hole about like how does the Empire like actually function on the ground level, and it's just never been addressed, right? And I think this is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Daniel Larson says Star Wars is a galaxy. You have a universe of stories to play with, but corporations and studios are too afraid to move beyond brand name adventures. Yeah, and that's what's unfortunate about that is we have so much, but even then, like I said, if they really want a reboot of something, it's not really a reboot. Just put KOTOR on live action. I will be at the 8 o'clock premiere, or even the midnight, just for traditional sake premiere.
Line it up.
I will have
Line
my
up a
tickets
day
bought.
early.
As soon as my tickets are available for purchase to reserve, I will have that. That is my promise to Disney, is I will see KOTOR, every KOTOR movie in the theater. Unless it starts to suck. But that's not going to happen if you just follow the script. That's really easy. Just follow the script. We have episodes. Actually, you know what? That's what I want to do for Hypothetical Writers Room. I want to take a break from our story, and let's start Hypothetical KOTOR. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that. But that's, I don't know. I mean, do we want to transition to that now? Because
Yeah, let's just go for it.
Because I think we've covered everything. Like Andor really was just a build up to this, and of course we still talk about Andor while we're talking about Star Wars.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I would love to have a quick discussion about the James Bond starship that we get to see in these 2 episodes.
Well, then
because,
let's
dude,
do that.
That ship is hilarious. Like, it is totally the James Bond of spaceships. Tractor beam? Well, I got a whole bunch of like sharp crap I can throw out the back to get caught in the tractor beam. You know, getting attacked by multiple TIE fighters. I've got a ship with it shoots out lightsabers because, okay, right? Like, all it needs is a space oil slick, and this thing has all the toys. and I can't help but love it for it, right?
Yeah. Wait, did you watch episode 11?
Was that? I thought that was in 10.
I don't remember that part being in 10, because I thought 10 was just mostly the prison break.
Oh, I must have watched it. I must have carried on with it.
Because I'm like, that sounds like something I would remember, unless I'm missing something.
Let's strike that from the record then and move on to the Hypothetical Writers Room.
That's all right. I mean, well, I'm trying to get the poster up anyway.
Yeah.
So
between Re-Animator and everything else, oh man.
Corione is hyping up next week's
there
discussion.
You go. So with KOTOR, I think the way to start KOTOR is we have to make it very clear at the beginning that this is not part of what I'm going to call the golden timeline yet, right?
Yeah.
That this takes place before that period of time that we're all familiar with. And I think the way to do it is to show the opening of Revan being mind wiped. But only in this like weird cut piece, like bits and pieces piece, and the main character wakes up as if from a dream on the ship. And the ship is being attacked, and he has to get into an escape pod and get out. And we don't have a lot of information, we don't have a lot of intel, but he gets down to Terrace. He winds up finding a way to get off of this planet and get to safety. And that's when the bombardment begins. We start with a big action sequence that doesn't let up. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to do it. Honestly, I do think that even just starting on the Andor Spire is enough to get it going. Sorry,
Daniel Larson says, "What if JJ was directing KOTOR? Would you still brave the theater?"
JJ's really good. Well, if you just copied the movies, you copied the game script to the movie and didn't change anything, yeah. Because you could just basically, any director, all they have to do really is just follow. I mean, artistically speaking, he does have the talent to make a good-looking picture. And that's what he's good at. As far as telling story and trusting writers, yeah, he's not the best company for that, but
see, okay, so I'm gonna go this way with it. So Daniel, what a lot of people don't know is the year before I started doing YouTube, I actually had some severe damage to my eyeballs, and I actually had to get injections into my eyeballs because everything in real life looked like a J.J. Abrams film, as in any light source provided a lens flare into my eyes. So I couldn't actually see what was going on really well in the world. So no, if J.J. Abrams is directing something, I really can't watch it because I can't stand lens flares in every shot. So if they took away, like if JJ was only allowed like 5 lens flare shots in a movie, then I'll watch it. But any more than that, and he gets electrocuted by the fans for every lens flare, then I'm good with it. Right? Like that would be the deal. That being said, look, KOTOR has some absolutely beautiful scenery, right?
Yeah.
Like on Dantooine, looks like it could be gorgeous. But I really think throwing too many lens flares at it would screw that up, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I don't mean like necessarily the lens flare style. I felt that what he did with Farce Awakens, I felt he was pretty tame compared to Star Trek 2009.
Yeah, well, that's because I think he got so much flack for it, right?
Well, there's that, but then he also relied more on practical effects, not just CGI, bullshit to tell the story. He actually did a decent job. Like I said, whether you love or hate Farce Awakens, JJ was competent at that time to get that done. People say that, his storytelling sucks, blah blah blah. I agree. I'm not arguing that. Lost is a joke of a series that a lot of people who think themselves smart don't want to admit that they got duped. I get it. It's I've been there, done that. It seemed like it was good, but that doesn't negate the fact that the movies still look good. The stuff looks good. And that doesn't mean that we, all of a sudden love everything J.J. Abrams does just because we can objectively and unbiasedly recognize that the man does have some kind of talent when it comes to filmmaking. It's just, it's not, story-wise, it's pretty meh. But at the same time, I also enjoy Transformers, for what it is. I thought the first one is still an alright movie. I know.
Yeah, the first one, the animated one, is definitely an alright movie.
Yeah, anyway. We're not here to discuss Transformers. So since we're talking about JJ, I would actually go the mystery box route with roughly the first half of KOTOR.
Yeah, you could.
We meet our main character, who is a soldier, and he ends up having flashbacks to like lockpicking and other various soldierly type duties. But then he starts having, the Revan visions, right? And if you've never played KOTOR, turn the stream off. So we'd kind of have a little bit of both going on, but we'd want to be more convinced that this guy is not, who the big reveal is at the end. We would definitely want to play on that, because I would want to try and give the audience as much of the same experience that I had going into the game. So you could still have that scene with Revan to open it up and then show the mind wipe, and then we get into the Indar Spires under attack, and non-stop action for like the first 20 to 30 minutes. Then we land on Terrace, and from there, that's basically the struggle to find Bastila, maybe talk to the underworld, do a couple of the favorite side quests from fans, and into the film, getting off of Terrace, but like just barely. And then the second one we can open up with the Dantooine sequence. We could probably do like Kashyyyk and probably Kashyyyk and Manon for episode 2. And then episode 3 we finish up with Korriban. What's the other one I'm forgetting? Kashyyyk, Korriban, Manon. Are those the 3 star? Is that it? Just those 3 planets that you go to the star map? I usually know my tour anyway. But then, or no, the third one, or the second one ends with them being captured by the Leviathan. And then that's when the big reveal happens. And then the third one is basically the resolution, where we go to Korriban, then we get stranded on the planet of the Rakata, and of course we finish up as it plays out in the game. And I think that's a realistic timeline and film set that would potentially rival the original trilogy when all is said and done. So
now, that being said, if we do not get a live action version of when Candaris or Ordo is doing his flashback to when he was a Mando riding basilisk war droids down to a planet into battle. If we do not get that sequence actually shown, I will not watch that movie series. That needs to be there.
Let's tie that in. Let's get a Disney Plus show about Candaris Ordo, and we call it The Old Mandalorian. And then, as it turns out, he's actually, as it turns out, Din Djarin is his descendant.
Yeah, I dig it.
I'd be okay with, Din Djarin is a descendant of Candaris Ordo. I would be totally fine with that tie-in. That would be acceptable, because, and again, it would be the Force showing that, oh yeah, his bloodline got away from the Mandalorians, but then he came back to the clan, and that which, over the course of about 4,000 years could totally happen. Nemesis of Eden says, I have to go now. Stay amazing, you beautiful beings. See you out on the rerun. Yeah, see you then, Nemesis. I'll probably crash your show later. Daniel Larson says, JJ has good production visuals. His version of Trek looks cooler than the originals. Fight me. I agree that as far as a visualization, I feel that 2009 and beyond were good examples of what a modern day TOS could be. But, we saw how that happened, and Into Darkness was a waste of... I can't even watch that movie anymore. I used to like that as a guilty pleasure, but...
Into Darkness, just a little trivia, is the most profitable Star Trek film of all time.
So they had a big opportunity and just killed it. Good job, idiots. Let's see. Oh yeah, Mike Loves Cat says, I will pay to sit in a theater just to hear yes, meatbag, or master. Yes, agree, yeah, 100%. Totally with you there.
Dude,
Orville Nation says, hey fellas. Hey Orville.
Cheers.
Yeah. We need a talking, moving, murdering HK droid toy, man.
Absolutely.
We need that. What we need, and this is the toy line, okay, is you have every other character, and when you put HK in front of them and it pulls up its gun, there's an RFID signal that goes to the other figure, and it just kind of splatters.
Tatooine.
Right?
Tatooine's the other planet. I forgot about frickin' Tatooine. We have to go to...
Which, I mean, how can you forget? Because, Tatooine is in all of them.
I think Tatooine... I think... Oh, yeah. So we'll go back to the timeline in a second.
I honestly think, and, hear me out on this. I honestly think if we're doing a live-action remake of KOTOR, use a different planet other than Tatooine. Hear me out on this. I know it's an iconic Star Wars place. Everybody goes there, but that's also the problem with it. Is that every movie winds up there. Let's let Tatooine stay in the well for a little while. Right? Just pick a different planet, a different motif.
I think that's going to be too much of a departure for the original material, but I think we can work this out. So... we'll kill the whole Sand People arc side quest, because we tried that with Book of Boba Fett, and look how well that worked out. But we still need the part with Bastila's mother. That is integral to the Bastila's character arc. And fighting a crate dragon's pretty badass. But I think we can wrap that up in a 30-minute stint on Tatooine. So how would you feel about just a short, hey, it's Tatooine, and then the next thing you know, we're gone. And off to the next thing. Because for time's sake, we gotta, and then we spend more time on Kashyyyk, Manon, and Korriban. And then
okay.
Because then we touch Tatooine for 30 minutes, it gets out of the story, we get that out of the way on the story, and we're back on to the other places. But
okay, well, answer me this. And this is just this may be my pet peeve about Tatooine, but answer me this. Is there anything specific about Tatooine that, or any of the story arcs that happen on Tatooine that we couldn't put on any other planet in the galaxy? Do we need Tatooine?
Where else in the galaxy is a crate dragon guarding a star map?
We can put that anywhere. We can put that on any other
I thought
planet.
Crate dragons were indigenous to Tatooine, though.
Yeah, but I mean, who's to say there aren't other planets with them?
Well, I don't know. I thought part of their uniqueness was that they're a Tatooine creature. That's the whole reason why they had Revan kill our main character kill a crate dragon, was to add to the legend.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, that's...
All right, so potential desert world with some play, or we could just, oh, you know what? There is one thing I would consider. If you want to flip the Tatooine sequence now, because then it doesn't make sense to meet Bastila's mother on Hoth or Ilum. Because I was gonna say we could just go to desert planet instead, or a complete snow barren world instead.
Or a jungle planet, or like, we could use 600 million different planets, just not there again. Like,
well, we'll have to think about it for the story arc when it gets into it, because it's like, all right, are we gonna do the game the right way, or are we gonna like that's why I'm saying if we can have a 30-minute, you know, we get down there, oh, Bastila's mom's here and dad died, oh, by the way, go kill this crate dragon, and then that's a quick 30-minute adventure. Of course, I say that there's a Rick and Morty meme to answer that, and then Tatooine turns out to be a whole movie.
right?
Well, if we're gonna do that, we have to do this, and the next thing you know, though, oh, we're a 4-movie trilogy now, even though that makes us a quadrily.
Hey, do you want to address Orville Nation's comment there about
Tatooine out we are.
Yeah,
yeah.
Tatooine out we are. I agree. I'm not saying it's. That's why I'm saying if we do it in like 30 minutes or less, we still honor the original game. We still have Tatooine in this freaking Star Wars, so people know it's Star Wars, and we're in and out. 30-minute adventure.
30
Who
minutes? Like, I'll time
Who would you get
dude.
to?
Like,
Who
if
would you
my
get to
pizza
voice
arrives,
HK?
You know, like, oh god.
Oh,
who
you
do
gotta
get?
try and get the original actor, or is he dead?
Yeah, that'd be
was he-
reasonable. That'd be reasonable.
Yeah. Well, okay, I got Orville Nation saying here, I want to see a Space Wizard character named Corian. Listen, I've already said this on more than one occasion. If I was going to be playing a character in the Jedi universe, I do not actually want to play a Jedi in any way. Like, I do not want to be a Jedi in any way, shape, or form. What I wouldn't mind doing is being the fencing instructor at the Jedi Academy who has no ability with the Force other than to be able to tell when other people are using it.
With me. I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Yeah, well,
I am one
like
with the
that
Force,
kind
and
of
the Force
thing.
is with me.
And just be like the guy who like tells like the runts, like, no, in my class, you do not get to use the Force. You have to learn how to use these things without it first. Right?
Yeah.
That would be the kind of character I'd be down with.
Yeah.
That like insists on actual like saber discipline.
Mike Loves Cats says, Tatooine is a pivot point for a lot of Star Wars. Unavoidable. Just had to be done well. Love its connection in time. See, I'm on that camp. Like, we gotta have something. Doesn't have to be more than 30 minutes of Tatooine, because that would also be, in itself, a meta reference. That Tatooine is the one planet that they're the shortest they're on. Because in Star Wars, Tatooine is like 90% of the trilogy.
Okay,
Well,
I'll be down with
Tatooine
it
isn't-
so long as somebody is begging constantly to get off of this slimy
Oh,
dust
absolutely. Oh, yeah, no. If we want that whole sequence to just be everyone's complaining about how much Tatooine sucks because of everything that's happened in Disney at this point, I'm all for it. We can shit all over Tatooine the whole time we're there if we want to. It's just all we gotta do is fight a crate dragon, say hi to Bastila's mom, and get
Fly
the
over
star
Mos
map.
Eisley.
Or fly over. Yeah, have the Ebon Hawk just quickly, fly through the pod race sequence.
No, I've got it. I need some. I want like a voiceover moment of like a film noir thing. It's like Tatooine. God damn it! Nobody wants to be on this planet. You know, like every time somebody comes here, it changes their lives and never for the better. And like, you know,
Hey,
like
it's an important port.
no,
Yeah.
it's not. But that's the point. Like. Every Star Wars
here it
makes
is.
it clear.
Here it
that
is.
This is like the least important port in the galaxy.
Here
and
it
yet
is.
Everyone gets there.
Here it is. Karth just lands the ship. He's got a couple of alerts that have gone off, and he's like, I freaking hate this planet so much. And he goes into the engine room, pulls open an exhaust port, and he's like, this shit gets everywhere.
Yeah, like shit like that, right? Like
Yeah.
just totally mock this stupid planet that was
Exactly.
supposed to be a one and done planet
Exactly.
that we keep going back to.
Yeah, so real quick to break from the writers' room, CC Karaoke, good friend of the channel, has popped in and says, I just got here. Does reboot mean reboot Disney or reboot George Lucas? I believe we should reboot all of Disney at this point. That sounds like a good idea. However, Cameron's sources, as Daniel Larson points out, says somebody at Disney wants to reboot the OG Star Wars trilogy, but it's just talk right now. Favreau is a hard no. We are a hard no all around on the Writer Brothers, and I think every other Star Wars loving channel is hard no on rebooting the original trilogy. We want to do stuff like Rogue One and Andor that takes place around, before, during, or after. That's fine. But as far as the original trilogy goes, let's just do Heir to the Empire. Thrawn is back in the galaxy. Let's get young versions of Han, Luke, and Leia. Well, we've already got young versions of Han and Lando. Let's get a Luke and Leia on there, and let's get Heir to the Empire going. And from there, you know, we'll see. If we start to brush up and change the timeline and get away from the sequels, oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh no. Right.
Yeah. No, so we're definitely, like I said, I'll bust it
don't
out.
think
Bust it out
anybody
again.
will care
I'll bust it out
about
again. I'm gonna
deviation.
reenact this since CC Karaoke wasn't here. Reboot the sequel trilogy? No.
Yeah.
We need more Captain Shaw. At the very least, we should get him in Star Trek Online, because that's a different timeline, so. But anyway, back to Star Wars. So yeah, I think we've got a lot of good ideas. I want to do a hypothetical writer's room, more in depth on KOTOR. I think we should do that for the next 5 or 20 shows. We'll just, see how we feel each time, and then we'll get back to our original thing when we feel like it. But I think a KOTOR, because who really doesn't want to see live action Knights of the Old Republic? Like, tell me that doesn't sound like, if you are a Star Wars fan and you've played KOTOR at least once, and if you haven't played KOTOR, check this out. It's available on a mobile. They have a mobile port of it. It's like $9 or something. Some places offer it for free. Maybe you get a game subscription or whatever. Oh, of course it's updating. Every time I try to show it off, it's updating. Well,
okay, so here's what I'm going to say about KOTOR. I did like the game. I am concerned that my experience in the game would not translate to the movie.
Oh, definitely.
That's
not.
my only concern.
No, it's a totally different experience. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, we'd have to do the canon ending. We'd have to do kind of mostly like light side stuff, because that is the canon side of things. So if you played dark side, well, maybe we'll do a what if trilogy. We can do that. Let's do that instead. There we go. 2 timelines side by side. We have a mirror KOTOR trilogy that does the dark side ending and a light side, and the fans have to pay for both. Anyway, there you go, Disney. That's awesome. The way to milk the Star Wars fans.
Do it like Clue, where like half the theaters get. No, do it like Clue, where half the theaters get the light side version and half the theaters get the dark side version.
Oh, that'd be.
Yeah, it'll be like that Bug's Life Gambit, where you like had to collect all the different versions of A Bug's Life to have the complete collection, and it's like they're all the same fucking movie. But yeah, there it is. On your mobile port, you can play this game. It plays just fine on the mobile. Still experience the story. It's totally worth it at least once. Mike Loves Cats says, one of the few games I played 3 times. Wow, so Mike Loves Cats doesn't play games repeat often. So that must be, one of the games he played 3 times. So, Orville Nation says, for some reason I have this urge to see ZZ Top's playing at the Cantina. Gee, I wonder why. So yeah, that's where things are at. There's talk about wanting to reboot the Star Wars original trilogy. That's like a no across the board. That will suck right out of the gate. Nobody wants that. We don't want to redo it. You could probably re-release the original trilogy on the big screen again. I would definitely go see that. That was a lot of fun when they did that in '97.
Yeah. I dig it.
Yeah. Let's just make that a Star Wars tradition. Every 10 to 15 years, it comes back to the theater. All 6 movies.
Yeah.
So yeah. So all right. I think we've talked enough about KOTOR. We do have to get to our movie Re-Animator, but first, let's talk about one of the few gems from Marvel Phase 4 that somehow, was allowed to exist. I don't know how or why. It's I forget that I'm watching it on Disney Plus half the time because it's such a fascinating and unique tale of multiverse madness and craziness. Yet I don't feel lost at all. I mean, I don't know about you two, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the show. But Scogli, you said you weren't impressed with season 1. You said season 2 showed improvement. So why don't you go ahead and
Well, I
start?
heard season 2 showed improvement.
Oh, you didn't catch up. Oh.
No. I heard season 2 showed improvement, and I did watch the first 2 episodes, and no.
Well, what's not doing it for you?
Well, I've never been kind of kosher with the Marvels, even back in the comics, like Marvel's take on Loki, just in general. Their whole like I'm not a fan of the Thor movies. Like it's they took like my mythology and just right from the start, and just watching, like, I get people love Tom Hiddleston and this Loki character, but I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't know, it just doesn't click. It seems really wrong somehow.
Well, yeah, they exist outside the timeline, so it's a state of both being right and wrong at the same time.
I liked the guy in the Chinese guy that has like the time extractor thing. Like, he was funny. I got a kick out of him.
Ke Huy Quan?
I don't remember.
He's the dude from Goonies. He was Short Round.
Okay, yeah. He was great.
Obi.
Yeah.
He
was
yeah,
okay.
he's
Yeah,
one
I
of
knew
my
that there's
favorite
something
characters.
familiar about him, but I just couldn't.
That's Short Round.
He was great and by far the best thing from what I've seen so far.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'll keep watching it. We'll see what happens. I really don't like the Sylvie character. It's nothing to do with I just.
She's not. She's definitely being.
She's just not digging
She's
it.
definitely being a bitch this season too. Like, I'm not. I liked her in season 1, and now I'm like, okay, you need to see reason again, and you're not. You're being emotional. Knock it off.
Yeah. So my thing is, I
But I
really
think that's
didn't like.
intentional.
Yeah, I really didn't like season 1 until they got to, I think it was Journey into Mystery. When they wound up on the planet with, or the outside of time kind of thing, and we got to see all the variant Lokis,
Yeah.
right? Because like Alligator Loki was kind of fun, right?
It was.
Like stuff like that was, original cartoon Loki or original comic book Loki was a lot of fun, right? These were good.
This Loki seems really weak and pitiful to me, and he kind of always has, like, especially in the Marvel movies, he's just like
Post Avengers, he hasn't been the Loki that we like. I really loved his speeches in the Avengers movie. In the first Thor movie, he was solid. The second one, he was okay.
he seems really unsure of himself.
Yeah, like,
it's just like I don't know. He should be like calling the fucking shots.
right? Like he
should be
commanding.
manipulating everybody. He's just this bumbling fool, as far as I can tell. But he should be turning the gears, manipulating this, that, like, just like screwing everybody over and being an absolute mastermind. And he's just this. He's unsure of himself. His powers are unclear.
Yeah, like,
As is a problem for Marvel in general. They never really settle on what power level of the MCU is. And of course, in the TVA, it seems that, everybody's neutralized, so to speak, or they're all the same. So, because they've all got, the Infinity Stones as paperweights. It's like,
yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know, the whole Loki series for me has been a problem from jump. They've had some cool scenes, they've had some cool moments, like Frog Thor was dope, right? But it hasn't come together for me. And so far this second season, right? I mean, like, Oberos was an okay episode. Breaking Brad was an okay episode, but they haven't really gelled. It hasn't really come together. It hasn't really made me feel pathos for the core characters, right? I want to love Loki because he's this mastermind that is playing everyone against each other while he rises up the ladder of chaos.
Yeah, like he should be manipulating everybody just kind of by accident without even realizing he's really doing it, because he's just
because that's what he is.
Right? He should be just doing everything off the cuff, and it should all just fall into place into this brilliant plan, even though he kind of just did it all by accident. You know,
Like-
and just like making everybody like divide and conquer. Everybody should be fighting around him while he just kind of laughs in the background.
Yeah, like what people don't understand is, like, if you take a look, like, the one thing Marvel does do occasionally with Loki books is Loki should always be teaching through being a pain in the ass, right? Like, he
Yeah.
manipulates people into learning lessons, whether they want to learn them or not, right?
Yeah.
He's the Coyote, he's Q, he's that kind of trickster deity that
Is
annoys
insanely powerful.
right.
He's Odin, like he's OG, like as it gets. Like he's on par with Odin.
Yeah.
Like, what
But-
is this?
Right, but he doesn't put all of his eggs in one basket like any of the other gods do. He just kind of screws with everyone to get what he needs. And that's what's missing from the TV series, I think, at its fundamental core, is they've kind of betrayed the character. And because of that, we're not getting Loki, we're getting, like, discount
It's something
Loki.
completely else. And I can understand how people would be like, oh yeah, this is interesting, if they don't know like absolutely anything about like who this character actually is. It's
Well,
like,
okay, but that's just it. We've already established that in this show, he's not the original Lord Loki, and it's all even implied that the original Loki hasn't even been contacted or recognized yet in this show, and maybe they're keeping that way to try and be respectful to the lore, that it's just based off of the lore.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, it's like the Loki that we know is somebody that was originally destined to be the Tom Hiddleston prime, timeline Loki, which he now sees himself and even sees that that's not what he imagined himself as. That what you guys are talking about was a conversation was a realization that Loki even has when he's watching his other variant that's in the prime line, or the sacred timeline. That's what it's called. The sacred timeline live out his days, and he gets killed, and then of course he finds out that that's in this particular universe that seems to be the outcome. So what I think we're seeing is possibly the establishment of the original lore Loki, but he's being built sort of in a backwards way. Like, he almost took the throne, and he almost reasoned his way to the throne. Sylvie just decided to act brash and quick and do what she did. As Daniel Larson points out, says that Sylvie is giving all the Marvel haters exact Karen vibes they want to mock the show. Exactly. She's intentionally written this way. She's not the strongest character. She's not the bestest ever who knows all. She really is a pain in the ass. Well, of course she is. She's a Loki variant. That's the point. So I haven't found any issue with it. I see well, first of all, it's a unique type of storytelling altogether. This is the type of multiverse story that still has a continuing progression forward that exists outside of the normal timeline, and yet we're taking characters and we're just taking them on different journeys. And from there, well, what's going to happen if Loki learns all the inner workings of the TVA and the sacred timeline, and then finds a way to actually defeat Kang and break the cycle? but of course the answer is possibly putting him on the throne. At least that's where I think the story might be headed.
Well, and if that's where it heads, then there's a chance.
Right. But
hear
he
me
doesn't-
out.
Every time I see anything in reference to Kang, I just groan. I'm just like, oh, Kang.
Yeah.
You've seen not the Multiverse of Madness, the
Quantumania.
Quantumania.
Yeah.
It's just like,
And then really quick to address Wasmata, who says, "What's up, fellas? Good to see TWB in force. Good to see you too, Wasmata. Hope you're doing well, considering your real life things that were going on." And then yeah, kind of like Thrawn in that respect. Yeah, I agree, because we need to see what Thrawn's gonna be. That's why I'm saying let's just do Heir to the Empire, because I don't want to talk about a subject. Go ahead.
All right. So there is a comic book like when they initially announced the Loki series. This is what I was actually hoping for. There is a comic book series called Loki, Agent of Asgard. And the story, the basic premise of it is none of the Asgardian gods can actually die. They just get reincarnated pretty much immediately. But this Loki is still a kid. And he's decided that he wants to not be the Loki that history records, right? Like the Book of Fate records. So a deal is struck that if he does certain good deeds, that, you know, the higher ups have deemed him to do, then they will change his fate. So what he winds up doing is using his trickery, using his mischievousness, using his unique brand of madness to actually affect positive change, right? To right the wrongs that he has caused himself, right? That would have been a fantastic way for this to go forward, right? You could have done this, and it would have been really good if they had adapted that concept of the TVA brings him in, shows him all the terrible stuff he's done, and Loki goes, okay, he's going to do, and he goes, okay, I want to change my fate. I don't want to wind up being that guy. And they go, okay, here's what you have to do to get through that. And they let him go do it, and it's all like mischievous, you know, screwed up stuff. Like
shape-shifting. He needs to shape-shift.
Yeah, like
it's his fundamental ability.
Yeah, like, or, you know, shape-shifting, pretending to be other people, you know, manipulating other people into doing what he's supposed to do while he sits back and eats a bunch of grapes. You know, stuff like that, which is like core hilarious Loki. Like, for example, I don't necessarily have a problem with
like
the concept.
They could be really like really edgy with his shape-shifting.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Really push the boundaries. It'd be really funny.
Oh, like 100%. There should absolutely be a scene where he turns into a horse, looks at some other horse, and you get little love bubbles, and then they shake it off and carry on.
He trots off. You know,
yeah. Well, right, like you could do that, right? And it's Loki and it's funny, but like, for example, my issue with Sylvie is not that they included the character of a female Loki. My issue is that she's a blonde. No. She should not be a blonde.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big problem. Like,
at
least make her a bleach blonde. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I'd buy it if it was a bottle blonde, right?
Yeah.
Well, that leads to my other thing. Do you guys have any Rensselaer theories built up by chance? Like, who do you think Rensselaer is? Who? Because we're probably gonna find out Thursday. Because that
I feel like it's gonna be somebody we already know. Like, I feel like it's gonna be somebody we've already met, that we're well aware of, that just has this alternate mode or identity.
Yeah, some of the theories out there that I've read think that Rensselaer is basically a female Kang, similarly as Sylvie's just a female Loki. I think that Rensselaer is something even more unique. I don't think she's just a female Kang. I think she's a twin sister variant. Meaning she only exists specifically in universes where Kang has a twin sister.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Like, I dig it. I would like to see... You know what also could be cool? And I was saying that this is how, like, they shouldn't have done Kang being like the guy who's in charge of the timeline. It should have been a Loki variant, right? Like, it should have been a Loki variant that was stuck there, that was just getting bored to tears and wanted another Loki to take it over, right? I think
Which
it'd be
may still happen.
yeah, like I think it'd be very funny if Rensselaer happened to be a Loki variant.
That
Right?
could work too, actually. At least you'd be a Loki with dark hair at that
Right?
point.
Like finally, right?
Yeah. No, that could work. Rensselaer is also a Loki. I like that too, actually. Daniel Larson says, Corione, that sounds like that one Tom and Jerry cartoon where Tom has to be nice to Jerry to avoid hell.
Yeah, like that's kind of the idea, right? Like, you know, but like I do recommend reading the comic book run Loki Agent of Asgard because it is actually really good, right?
Yeah. Daniel Larson says, guys, we know Rensselaer is Tron. Oops, wrong franchise. Well, actually, Daniel Larson, that could be it. That could be the big...
No! I've got it. Rensselaer? Rufus. From Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Oh!
Oh,
Of course!
George.
Of course. No. I've got it. Rensselaer is actually Ray's mom.
Yeah!
The best is ever! Oh, man.
Well, she could be actually really could be a Loki variant if they like do the shifting element. It
Yeah.
could look like anything.
Yeah,
But
like
then she she shifted to like to look the way she does and doesn't know it because she's a variant that had her mind wiped as all the other variants that work for the TVA do. So that's why
Actually,
Loki...
that could explain why Sylvie has blonde hair, though. Actually,
Right.
When I think about
See,
it. Yeah.
and that's the thing is that's why Loki doesn't know what he's doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. That's actually why I love this show is nobody knows who's pulling what strings. Even the frickin' clock, the rather
Even the clock doesn't know what time it is.
Suggestive clock doesn't really know what's going on. So, yeah. Found some other fascinating discussions. People try to say, why does this clock make me think weird thoughts? Because she's voiced by Tara Strong. That's it. It's totally normal. Even gay guys and staunchly straight women develop some kind of crush on Tara Strong at one point or another. That's just the way
it's natural.
she's
it
got
happens.
that voice, but also in real life, she is actually a really good humanitarian and a great person. Did a lot of cool things for U.S. military members who are also nerds, particularly Brodies. But you know, the point is, she was trying to you know, help those guys be like, look, it's cool that you serve in the military and that you like a girl pony show, and it is. This flag says it is. So it's just not for me. But I respect the fact that it wasn't just that. There's a lot of other cool stuff. She's actually a really a decent human being.
Yeah, it's like liking Freddie Mercury, right? I mean, like everybody's allowed to have a crush on Freddie Mercury.
Even straight guys, yes, have a crush on Freddie Mercury. It's perfectly natural. Exactly. That's a good example, Corione. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Daniel Larson says, yeah, because Mr. Majors would love to be Daisy Ridley's daddy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I like this show a lot. I have a lot of fun with watching it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It's only 6 episodes, but like I said, nobody really knows what's going on. It's a well done mystery box because, well, they have an ending planned, and you can tell. And so the reveals, I felt very satisfied overall with the way that the story's progressed, and there's a lot of good narrative stuff. And I think that's probably what they are going to do with this story, is they're going to have Loki start to, as he figures it out, that's when we're going to see stuff probably change. I think Hiddleston has been giving just some of the best acting overall of his career. I didn't really care for Loki in the Avengers. I was never really a huge Loki fanboy. You know, he's the bad guy, all that. But man, is Tom just giving us some of the best, well, I guess Loki, but it's really a different Loki and a new character. We got just some of the best Tom Hiddleston being Tom Hiddleston, I guess you could say.
I'm just too close to the lore.
And that's a fair,
yeah.
No,
and that's where I'm at
valid
too, right?
criticism. Like I got nothing to All I can say is different timeline, and that's it. That's the only argument I have. Is it's not the original lore Loki. That, or we could call
Like,
that
my-
Loki 1.
Like
Loki
Jotun
A.
is literally the bloodline of the Frost Giants,
Right.
where Loki is from in my profile name.
Yeah. So
And it does not come. I do not name that from Marvel. People
No.
are like, "Oh, Marvel." I'm like, no.
No. Marvel is borrowing inspiration from the original lore. That's how that works. You know, just like
very
Ahsoka borrowed some
loosely.
inspiration from Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings.
Yeah.
It's okay to do, but no, this is not. You're not gonna beat the original story. I don't know why someone doesn't just do that. I mean, it's all public domain.
Oh, man.
They kind of did. Neil Gaiman did a book on Norse mythology
Not
that
a
is
book.
100%.
I mean, like a
100%.
Game of Thrones HBO show about the
Dude,
Norse
that
mythology.
book is awesome.
Yeah, like
It's really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is fleshed out so well. It's great. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed that book.
All right. If we have any more last second opinions on Loki, the TV series on Disney Plus, which has really nothing to do with actual Norse mythology, of course. It's a really cool original concept though. Like it's some weird
I'm trying
out
to
of
see that.
universe, multiverse kind of crazy interdimensional madness, but it's not, that crappy movie. It's actually enjoyable. At least I enjoy it. Really dig the music. The music, I think, without it would definitely not help the show. It's because that really sets the tone for each scene and really just adds to the we smoked a lot of stuff to write this story, as you can tell, and you're gonna experience all of that. And that's why, I found as a storytelling, it's like I said, it's definitely set very far apart from the rest of Marvel Phase 4 because it's actually competent from a narrative perspective. And you can even just imagine, you don't have to call him Loki, you just call him somebody. You just say that's just Tom Hiddleston, because that's basically all it is. It's a new character. He's become a totally new character out of the circumstance. And that one, he was pulled out of his timeline, and two, well, he's a variant that exists as a paradox.
The way I kind of retconned it in my head is like the best way to explain it is, you remember Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
Like the plot of Galaxy Quest? The Asgard of Marvel is like those guys from Galaxy Quest that like watched the show and were like, oh no, we can totally be those guys.
Yeah. That's
Right?
that's a good way to put it.
That's the only way I can justify this in my head.
Yeah,
right?
we need like that horse picture meme of like the first half of the horse is the original Norse mythology, and then it's the crappy like 2-year-old horse drawing and that's Marvel's version right there.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, moving on now to a very silly movie, to say the least. If you like Jeffrey Combs, then Re-Animator is for you. That's pretty much all I can really introduce. I never heard of this film, never seen it. H. Marie doesn't ever want to touch it again, because it was a little bit over the top for her. And Daniel Larson gets in just after too late.
I was wondering about that.
Oh, they could have done a story of the character Tom Hiddleston gets yanked out of the timeline and mistaken for Loki.
Yeah.
There it is. Fan canon right there. It's the real life Tom Hiddleston. All right, back to Re-Animator. Re-Animator is
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, it starts off kind of like it's trying to take itself seriously. It feels like a very B grade, high school class project. Then it just kind of cranks the ridiculousness to 11 and then doesn't stop. It goes all the way through. And then my favorite part of this movie is without a doubt the ending, because it just decides, we're good. Credits, done. And that's it. That's the movie. It's fantastic for that regard. I mean, as a piece of art, it's ridiculous. It's definitely not, something I would recommend to grandma. But
no. But okay, so
yeah, like manifested that recommendation down into oblivion.
But here's what I'm gonna say. Look, the thing I love about this, the reason why I recommended Re-Animator, is I am a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan. Okay, I love his work, and this is probably the easiest adapted work that H.P. Lovecraft has ever done. Everything else would be incredibly complicated to do. Re-Animator is not. Okay? This is done in 85 and has all the hallmarks of 85 special effects. It's got a very grindhouse kind of feel to it, right? It's directed by
story.
Yeah, it's directed by Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon has attempted, I think now, 4 different H.P. Lovecraft stories. And this is, I think, the 3rd one in the group. And it actually, look, when you think about this idea of, you know, we've seen similar stories before, right? We've seen Frankenstein. We've seen, you know, all these times where somebody's tried to resurrect people from the dead and it's gone poorly, right? This is the science going amok and messing with things it never should kind of storyline.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that regard, it's great. But what they did here is, because it's an 85 B movie, they have to B movie it up, right? You know, they have to throw in the odd booby. They have to throw
It's
in...
funny.
Yeah, like they have to throw
It's
in...
intentionally
Yeah.
funny if you're sick.
Yeah, like, you know, if you're as screwed up as we are in the head and so used to...
Not at all. Everybody on the Writer Brothers is the wholesome, pious pretender. We all, you know, go to church every Sunday. And that's all that, you know, we don't say swears. We don't watch bad movies. Nothing above rated G.
Yeah, no. Like, don't get me wrong. This movie is, like, the effects are so dated they're now comical, right? Like, we laugh about it right now. This is like Arnie Hammer eat your heart out kind of graphic, like, you know, like special effects. But it is an interesting story. And it does have some amusing points to it and stuff that would kind of make you think, right? And dude, if you don't love Coombs, I don't even know what you're doing on this planet, right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Jeffrey Coombs is friggin' amazing. And what I pointed out to Petey earlier is there is a next gen episode where
DS9
or Deep Space Nine episode where Jeffrey Coombs, playing Wayoon, is talking to a mad scientist who's trying to live forever. And he says, the guy goes like, "I'm trying to live forever."
Really?
Wayoon goes, "Really? I have a background in, how shall we put it, outside genetics or something like that. You know, I'd love to hear more." And he's referencing Re-Animator in character, and it's so good and it works so great. It makes that episode of Deep Space Nine just that much better knowing this.
He's just stoked climbing into the thing, right?
Well, I mean, it's totally appropriate that he was cast as Wayoon anyway, because Wayoon, reanimates, so to speak. So it's
exactly right. Like,
glad John isn't here tonight.
Oh yeah, no.
Spoilers.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look, for those who don't know the plot, the basic idea is this scientist creates a serum, or he's trying to perfect a serum that he believes will reanimate dead people. His experiments, though, have not gone perfectly so far, shall we say. Just about everybody he reanimates turns into a psychotic monster. And as people, figure out what he's, think he's crazy, so they cut his funding. So he goes to further lengths to try to animate dead bodies. And as things progress and as he gets farther down this well of madness, and he's dragging everybody kicking and screaming with him, eventually, we're dealing with effectively a murder spree, trying to sort out all the craziness that has happened throughout this movie, till we get to an ending of, effectively a Dawn of the Dead style moment where everybody in the morgue is getting up and fighting people. And, the best is at the end, the guy who's watched all these horrors happen, okay? And seen how dangerous this research and how deadly this, how terrifyingly bad this drug can be. And then his fiance dies. And there's the medication right beside him. And all he'd have to do is inject just a small amount to bring his love back from the dead. A love that he couldn't save. Right? That's what's so uncanny about this thing. Yes, it's cheesy effects and everything. But how far
I've seen
would
a
you
lot
go?
worse.
Oh
Yeah.
no, the effects were not super terrible. I mean, aside
No,
from
they're
when
just they're cheesy,
when he-
right?
like they're cheesy, but they're realistic enough that there's an attempt made to make it look somewhat believable. But it is
Yeah.
supposed to be a bit of a goofy movie. It's not meant to be. That's why, at the end when they defeat the main bad guy, they just throw his head and it just plops on the freaking wall like a tomato.
That was
It's like,
Oh, the best is a security guard that sees this, looks in at what everything that's going on, is like, nope,
yep.
I'm out of here.
One of the smartest security guards in cinema history right there. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go sleep that off and read about it tomorrow, or maybe I was hallucinating.
Yeah, you know
you
what?
just
No,
peek in the door and the head explodes on the wall beside you. No.
No.
yeah, it's like, you know what? I am 2 weeks from retirement and I intend to make it there. Like, I'm out. It was a perfect moment in this thing, right? Like, and there are several perfect moments like that, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point, though, right? The point is, at the end of this whole thing, when you've seen all this death and all this destruction and all this violence, because somebody wanted to try to figure out how to rescue people from death, and you've seen how bad it can be, and yet you're still tempted, right? That is H.P. Lovecraft storytelling in a nutshell, and that's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you watch this person be that mentally racked by it. And kudos to the actor. I'm just looking up the name. I think it's Bruce Abbott. Okay.
Yeah, he was
Credit-
great.
Credit to Bruce Abbott. He really does a good job of showing off like the range of acting he's capable of, because like he starts and he's like, whatever, the guy's crazy, but he's harmless. Then it goes, holy crap, I think he's actually done it, to a holy crap, he's actually done it and I need to help him get this published, to what the hell did I what kind of horror show did I walk into, to okay, we can never do this ever again, to oh my god, my girlfriend's dead and I want her back. And that in an hour and a half is a hell of a range to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. TC Karaoke says, I've been retired all my life. Well, it's where I'm more or less trying to get to, but it's the grind. We have to we live and die on currency for the moment, so hopefully that'll change soon. It's just live and die as we exist, but that's a discussion for Friday. Yeah, I liked that. This is definitely my preferred genre or style of horror. I don't really care for things like Saw that are just hack and slash and sitting through gore for the sake of gore. I mean, especially nowadays, I could just watch the news for that stuff. So you don't really need the realistic violence. It's nice to have these, and I think these are the movies that end up standing the test of time overall because they aren't so realistic.
Oh, this movie's fun. That scene where they're fighting the reanimated cat in the basement. Oh my god,
that was the
I was
moment.
just dying.
That was so. Yeah, it starts off, and I gotta give credit because this movie takes itself so seriously in the beginning. Even when he reanimates the Swiss or the Swiss teacher at the beginning, it's like okay, this is like kind of scary. The second he comes back and he's got a cat prop stapled to the back of his back, and it's not moving, and all we're hearing is I'm just like, oh, this is that kind of. Oh,
I see what's going on here.
I've been had the first 20 minutes of this film. Well done. Yeah. Watts Mata says,
like running around in the dark, knocking over cans with brooms and shit. Every once in a while, the director like throws a stuffed cat across the room and the.
All right.
Watts Mata asks, backtrack for me a few minutes. The actor we were talking about who guest starred in DS9, something like Tim Coods. Did I miss that name? Jeffrey Combs. He's he's the guy on the poster here that we have featured. I can figure this out right there.
Yeah. Jeffrey Combs, who has played, he's the star of Re-Animator. He
Right.
has played the Vorta Wayun. He has played a
Brunt.
associate of Quark.
Brunt.
Liquidator
FCA.
Brunt.
Yep.
Yep.
Liquidator Brunt. FCA.
CA. He was also the Andorian commander Shran in Enterprise.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the dude just plays every background character.
He
Right?
needs, and he also voices a crazy computer in Star Trek Lower Decks.
And
Perfect.
it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that as well.
Oh my gosh! All right, Lower Decks started off pretty bad. Oh,
What's going on?
Gangster, welcome to the Ryder Brothers, and thank you for showing me that I picked the wrong colors for the font. I'm gonna need to fix that. Although it's supposed to also have outlines, so I don't know why I didn't show the outline, but whatever. Yeah, I'll check it out. Oh, Cigar Gangster, welcome, Cigar Gangster. Thank you for subscribing to the Ryder Brothers.
I bet today it feels good to be a gangster.
Absolutely, because he came to the right channel. Yeah, Watsmata says, whoa, don't pull that eject handle. Daniel Larson says, and he got to be human variation in Cisco's New York Dream. Exactly. Yeah, he got to
I
be.
love that
he got to be the
episode.
he got to be the scientist, but as a dirty cop in the '60s. Yeah, no, it was. Jeffrey Combs truly is fantastic, and like I said, if regarding Star Trek Lower Decks, to me it feels like Futurama Trek now. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely. They listened to the fan criticism and decided to make improvements on it.
Yeah, the last episode of season 2 was like what really sold me is like, yeah, there's something here for sure. Yeah.
And that first episode of season 3, especially if you're a First Contact fan, they just come in hard with that one. And they start to make Mariner a likable character. I know.
Yeah, she actually had some growth and like deep like personal reflection, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I was absolutely floored that they gave her that insight.
Yeah. Daniel
Yeah.
Larson says, I was floored when I discovered that Coombs was also Brunt on DS9, though I figured out rather quickly that he was Andorian captain on Enterprise. Yeah, absolutely. All right, looks like we got some media here. Looks like it's age appropriate for the channel.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is, Daniel Larson. There's
There's Jeffrey.
There's the range of Jeffrey Combs. Oh, he played 2 Ferengi. Okay.
Yep.
So.
No, dude, I got you covered. He's everybody.
Oh yeah, he was in Voyager too. That's right.
Yep.
In Voyager.
Wei
like
Yun
twice.
is one of my favorite characters in all of TV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there he
Whoa,
is as Frank
that really is
Sinatra.
quite toxic now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is he's quite the actor and just one of the best parts of Star Trek overall.
Yep. Yeah, he's slowly becoming my like God, the Stan, he's the Stan for like Marvel's Stan Stan the Man, Stan Lee, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Jeffrey Combs like needs to be in every Star Trek project going forward.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just a cameo for 30 seconds.
Yeah, there should have been a cameo of him in Discovery. He needs to show up in wait. Did he show up in Strange New Worlds yet?
Not yet, but he needs
I
to.
don't-
He needs to.
Yeah.
Season 3, I expect to see Jeffrey Combs as the main character. I mean, at least show up in Strange New Worlds. Because if he's already got a character in Lower Decks, I don't see why not.
Yeah, like just have him show up everywhere.
Yeah. He could have showed up in he could have actually showed up in Picard season 3. He could have showed up to explain the problems with
Dude, I don't care if he's just like a guy manning the bar in the background. Like he just needs to be everywhere.
pretty much. Yeah, I agree.
Oh man. Yeah,
So-
but yeah. So getting back to Re-Animator, like, look, yeah, it's one that like I get that there are going to be people that are going to be like, no, this is ridiculous, and like, no, you know, the plot line is you know, out
sorry,
of
we got
control.
another good one from Daniel Larson. Just rewatched the DS9 episode where Weyun 6 tries to defect with Odo, and his replacement clone gets to argue with him over the intercom.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
you know, who else but Jeffrey Combs could make that work, right? I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was. And of course, that's why he's amazing in Re-Animator, is because he does a very good job. Like, I still love, there's no clear explanation as to how the cat ended up in the fridge. We don't know if he put it in there and it suffocated, or if he was telling the truth. We just don't know whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's never
exactly.
clarified. And that's what I miss in stories, especially like this. Like, that's why, I think that's why this movie impresses me, is because from a narrative perspective, like, if we were to do this film and just take the original script, update it with modern prosthetics and maybe a little bit of CG touch-ups, and really just make it an actual believable movie, I think narratively it still holds up. I think the narrative for this film really is one of those timeless narratives because it's very tight, it's very structured, and as you said, we have our ride-along shotgun character that just doesn't know what to think of any of it the whole time, while Combs is like, I gotta make my serum. I gotta reanimate the dead. I figured out how to defeat brain death. And he's pushing through and convincing people to go along for the ride, but he lies about half the shit half the time.
Well, yeah.
And so that's why you never know, did he kill the cat or not? I don't know. I can't answer that. And I miss when stories had some of those loose ends out there that just don't tie up, because not every little thing needs an explanation. It's an art form to tell that kind
They
of
didn't
story.
explain Dr. Hill's uncanny ability to hypnotize people either.
Yeah, like, well, they sort of do, but not nearly enough, right? Like, they sort of explain that he used his new brain laser technique or whatever to get them all, you know, on board, but you know what? It doesn't need explanation at that point. Listen, when you put a dude's head in a hotel pan and bring it back to life, and then bring his body back to life, and have the body stumbling around carrying the hotel pan, you don't need to explain anything anymore. The shark, you're so far above the shark now. You didn't jump it. You took an airplane and flew over it.
My favorite part was the severed head struggling to breathe.
Right?
Why?
Like, why? Yeah.
Well, I don't think you rely on oxygen to be alive anymore. I think that's
The body pours the blood in the pan and the bot around the head, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's good." I'm like, "What's pumping it?"
That made sense. But yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is the serum obviously absorbs stuff and takes over bodily function to the point where, no, you don't have to rely on your organs anymore. And I think that was really part of the magic of the serum, was he was basically trying to say that through his serum, he had basically figured out that the human body in of itself is an illusion, which is a bit thought-provoking.
Right, like, that's the
very
crazy
uncomfortable
thing
way.
Right, like, that's what makes this style of horror, though. It's very thought-provoking in an uncomfortable way. That's what I like about this kind of horror.
And they did touch on that. Dr. Hill was like, the body is this and that, the spirit, the consciousness of the mind, and blah, blah, blah.
Right,
and
right. He's explaining all that while Combs is going for the shovel. That's right, I forgot about that. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it makes so much money, and he drops a couple of hints about how the serum's just reanimating cells by itself, not functioning as a mechanism the way that it's supposed to. Like, yeah, it's science fiction, and it's almost science fantasy, but it's really... This movie's, damn it, I don't know. This must have aged well or something.
It's like you go in wanting to not like this movie, but you can't help it, right?
The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, no, that was good. No, that was really good. No, that was also good. Cheesy, but good. Oh, God, it's an episode of Star Trek, the original series.
Right? Like, that's what this is, right? Like, this is the you know, pug of horror movies. You want to not like it for being a pug, right? And you look at it and you think it's ugly, but then it runs up and it gives you a hug, and you're like, "Ah, god damn it! Now I'm attached to the damn."
Yeah,
thing."
You
exactly.
find yourself laughing at some of the most horrific stuff you've ever seen, and you're just like, wow.
It's the absurdity. It's so absurd. It's so out there. Like maybe he was struggling to breathe because it's all he knows how to do. He's like, no, I'm supposed to have lungs to breathe in, and it's like, no, you're not functioning. That's not what's keeping you alive now. You're just kind of exist. That's why the dad reanimated. That whole thing was just weird.
Oh god, yeah.
Weird. And
Oh,
I didn't see that coming, that he was going to use his laser lobotomy drill to take control of all the zombies. That was unexpected.
But good!
And it
right?
was a good twist. I knew it was coming, but then I was like, oh wow, they actually went to depth to explain real quick how he did. Yeah, no, for an hour and a half narrative, objectively speaking, this is like, should have been Best Picture.
See, I knew this would happen, right? Like, I knew this was one of those movies that you'd be like, you'd start with like, oh, what the hell am I watching? And then by the end of it, you'd be like, okay, no.
What the hell did I even just watch? Yeah.
Yeah. And then later you're like, okay, no, actually, this is kind of awesome.
Daniel Larson says, all right, Jets, this was fun. Family obligations call me away. Y'all have a good night. Thank you. We'll see you Friday, Daniel, probably, if you're available. We're going to start the discussion on leadership and go from there. You know how it is on Casual Free-For-All Friday. It's, well, a casual free-for-all, so.
Night, Daniel.
But thanks for popping in and giving your input and asking those questions to Cameron, and we got to rave a little bit about car coils as a result, which, again, Disney, cast Keith David or else. I'm not watching it. And I don't think most other people will too, unless you have a damn good explanation. But no, there's no reason.
I also need Jonathan Frakes as Anatos.
Yeah, you can't.
That'd be a huge.
Yeah, there's no reason to have the original actors, because if it's live action gargoyles, we all know they're gonna be wearing suits and probably CG'd up and whatnot, which is fine. It's just, we don't need
The voice.
Yeah. The voice can still be there. Or Keith David, actually, he does still does do physical comedy sometimes. I don't know if you guys saw the series on Hulu, Future Man.
Yeah.
Talk about something that's just depravity for the sake thereof. God, that series does. They just decided, you know what? Let's do what South Park does, but times 11, and just break all kinds of barriers of human
Sanity.
decency, because
No boundaries? I like it.
God, both loved and hated it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, now I am going to, let everybody know who's watching. If you're watching Re-Animator, keep in mind this is very much a product of its time, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like, it really, really is, in terms of
low
like
budget
what they...
80s product of its time.
Yeah, like, and there's some nudity, there's some adult situations, right? Like, this is what horror used to be.
If you're a fan of American Werewolf in London, you're gonna find this to just be an absolute delight.
Exactly, right?
That's another one we might have to rewatch, because I watched that the first time years ago, and I was like, I think 15 or 16. I'm like, this is a pile of dog crap, pun intended. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know. No. I know what it is. Re-Animator is actually a good movie. American Werewolf in London is American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
This is a hidden gem, even underneath itself.
Right? Like,
you have to go into this wanting to appreciate the narrative, which is obviously what we do, because we're the Writer brothers, not, the lens flare brothers or the special effects brothers. Spin-off channel ideas. But anyway, no, we focus on the writing, and when you remove bias from just about every aspect of your life, and you look at things objectively, you have to look at this from a narrative perspective. And narratively speaking, like I said, we could just pull out the original script. We can even cast Jeffrey Combs as the lead role again.
I mean, I would.
I would too. And just redo the movie, and there it is. It would probably sweep at the Oscars, because most other movies are crap these days anyway. This is a film that I may have to consider adding to the has aged like wine list, because it has stuff in there that is timeless. The narrative is solid. Watsmata says that was the one with the Dr. Pepper commercial guy. I think so.
I'm not sure who the Dr. Pepper commercial guy is. Not everywhere gets the same commercials, unfortunately.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm from Canada. I don't see the same commercials as you.
You guys don't like the. Yeah, you guys don't get DP commercials up there.
Not the same ones you guys get.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know when the last.
I
time
don't think
saw
I've ever
DP
seen a
commercial
Dr.
was.
Pepper commercial.
I
American-
see like the odd one, like, you know, one every like couple of years, right?
David Nivens is not right, but something close. Oh yeah, I think it's the same guy who's in. I want to say that Alaskan show, Far From Home or something. No, I can't even remember now. Great, that's how much I know about pop culture. Nothing. Yeah, let me look it up. Let me get the IMDb's up since in a couple seconds.
Well, I've got everybody for Re-Animator.
Y'all not
directed by-
Texas people, I don't understand you. Hey, I have been to Waco and I have been to the DP Museum, and I am actually not opposed to going back. So, you got
Fair
Re-Animator? I was pulling up American Werewolf in London.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, guys, what should we do for the 31st proper, since that's our next Tuesday show?
Hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm
I
open
don't
to
know what you
suggestions.
guys-
Huh? Do we want to do
Well-
a full out, 3 Halloween movies, or
Well, I mean, what are you guys in the mood for? You guys in the mood for more like weirdness like this, where you sit there going at the end of it, you're like, damn, this actually was a good movie? Or do you want more like traditional kind of horror movies? Or do you want to do, I've got actually access to a really classic one. I have a copy of the 1920 Nosferatu out there.
oh,
Right? Like I have like a silent horror film, like access to that even, right? Like I've got, I can get us just about anything on the equation here if we want.
I
But-
mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing, instead of just an actual Tuesday show, provided that no news happens until then. Honestly, if we just want to do a quick, pop culture rundown and then move into a watch along again for a horror film and call that our Tuesday show, I'm not opposed to it. Would prefer to keep the movie maybe under an hour and a half if that's possible, because then we can discuss it after.
The only concern is, guys, because it is because the 31st is the 31st and it's the big day for me.
Right.
I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna try to be available for the show. I may be late though. Okay, so just as a heads up.
Okay. And Watts Mata, I think you're right. Yeah, Northern Exposure, that was the show I was thinking of. I think that is a different
Oh,
person.
okay.
But the
That
person
was the
in-
show I had in my head too, and I couldn't come up with the title.
David
Yeah.
Naughton was, I believe, the guy, who plays David Kressler in the movie. Apparently, truck driver Joe Belcher, Belcher is higher up on the casting credits for American Werewolf in London. But yeah, I believe David Naughton. I put the link in there. I don't know if he was the guy in Northern Exposure, but
I'm actually kind of shocked that anybody associated with American Werewolf in London would actually put their name on it. But there it is.
fair enough. And yes, it says he did be the DP, or be a Pepper commercial. Ah, okay, so that was him for the DP commercial, but not for the not for Northern Exposure. Yeah, no, I mean, some white guys just look the same to me. Whatever.
Ha.
Yeah, like honestly, Scogli and Corione, because they're both Canadian, I can't tell the difference half the time.
Same.
Mhm.
It's like looking in a mirror. Yeah, no. So I think we should talk about it. Maybe we should put it out on a poll. Do we want to do? And you guys watching in the chat, you guys have first dibs on what we do. Do we want to review 3 Halloween movies? Do we want to do mostly regular shows so we have Andor discussion again like we did? Maybe more Star Wars KOTOR writers room, and then a Halloween movie like we did this week? Or do we want to do a live discussion, watch and react live? As a Tuesday special, because I'm down for any of those. But yeah, let us know in the chat what you guys are down for. If there's a horror film that you want to watch that we could, I mean, it'd be great if we could do a public domain movie and then actually like Mystery Science Theater it. I think that could be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll probably put out a poll for that, and then we'll put out another poll, and then another poll, and then by like the 12th poll, you'll all have unsubscribed. But it's efficient. So, Watsmana says, I'm an aberration. I don't care about slasher gore stuff. Star Wars on almost every plane grabs my attention. Ah, okay. Well, yeah, and I don't really like slasher gore stuff either. It's just Re-Animator was more of sci-fi gore, which, like The Thing, is definitely more my alley. And The Thing wasn't really a comedy, but The Thing is a really good suspense thriller with sci-fi gore. Because, as I said, plenty of real-life gore to find on the internet, especially these days.
Oh, yeah, and look, I get that people are, like, not, like, you know, fans of gore, right? Like, I'm not really either, but this one, the plot is just like it's the thinking man's horror, and that's what
it really is. It's definitely a hidden gem of a film that's worth, like, again, if we formalize a film school, that's probably going to be on the curriculum, to be perfectly honest, because I went into this thinking we're going to talk about it once and never see it again, and by the end of the discussion, I'm like, holy crap, that's actually really good.
Right, like. That's the best part about it, right?
That's why I love this show. All right, winding down. Less than 3 minutes left to go. Sorry we got a little bit of a late start today, guys. But after this, I will be joining our sister network, Super Gamecraft, for some Halo. More Halo Infinite. Woo. Will I stream it? Probably, because we need watch hours all the time. Watsmata said, you had mentioned Halloween-themed movies. No knock on Re-Animator, which I have not seen, but now I have to.
Yeah, there you go.
It's pretty gory.
Watsmata, I'm going to give you the opportunity to follow this discussion up on Casual Free for All Friday. Because that's also kind of the function of the Friday show, is if we don't get enough done, we can get back to it after that. But otherwise, Thursday, we have a special Rogue Council session. Coriel's going to be doing some... go ahead, Coriel, why don't you pitch it yourself?
Yeah, so, guys, for Halloween every year, I do a charity stream. So what I like to try to raise money for a charity. My channel members have picked Child's Play, which puts video game consoles into hospitals. Very good charity. And to entertain you in order to earn your dollars, I will be pulling up my tarot cards, pulling up my runes, and possibly even my very, special black mirror. And I will help you guys. I will divine your future for purely entertainment purposes. Nice, an obsidian orb. Very cool. I will attempt to divine your future for the year if you ask the question, right? You can just show up and enjoy the fun and enjoy the silliness of what I intend to do. Or you can ask the question and I will try to give you the answer. I think it's a lot of fun. It's for a very, very good cause. And I'm really hoping you guys will consider coming out for it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a link to Corion's channel, so definitely subscribe and hit. You definitely won't get as annoyed hitting the notification bell on his channel. I'm Peter York of the Ryder Brothers, and I will see you probably soon. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, restoring respect